Hello everyone. For today's special episode, I'm going to be reading Chapter 1 of Dissonance, the Furry Files. That book that I've been talking about that I ended up postponing the main series for. I own the copyrights to it and have the certificate of copyright in my files, so I have every right to use this. Go to Chapter 1, Preschool and Prejudice. Hate rises from the rubble. Torrance is a lovely town. We have our old town charm of decades gone by. A beach, a shopping mall that was once the largest in America until Mall of America came around, or so people tell me. My name is Lila Uracha. I'm a female anthropomorphic silver blue fox, and I've lived on Earth since 1947. And have been alive even longer. If one were to guess, I'd hardly look a day over 25. Some may recall the civil rights movement of the 1960s. Well, safe to say, it seemed like a good time as any for us to come out and support. We did. We were taken away and sent to Area 51 until someone publicly leaked our capture information for the entire globe to see. The human race was much less hesitant to accept their variations of each other when far different creatures existed. Well, we ultimately came to earn our freedom under immense public pressure from activists who sympathized with what it was to be different. That did not exactly make us comrades in arms. Though granted equal rights, there have been tensions between the human race and the various furry races of the world in light of these mutant chimpanzees' less than utopian tendencies. Sorry, the intergalactically correct word is intelligent life. Yeah, the United Planets phoned that one in. Live with them as long as I do, and you'll find it highly inaccurate on average. Yes, they can speak as we do, and our communicators help with any mistranslations, but that does not mean they are talented at much. There are exceptions, of course, but even the smartest of them have their oafish moments. I was a nurse at Harbor City Hospital, caring for adults and children respectively. I would often keep plush toys in the trunk and sometimes the backseat of my car out of habit. It was a comfort to them as much as a delight to me to see their smiling faces when they brave intensive care procedures with the help of a plush toy. While there, I met a cat boy with two striped tails and black and white fur far as the eye could see, with a few red highlights before the tips of the tails in certain other equivalent places. His name was Adam, and from what he told me before the incident at the hospital, he could hardly fit in living in Covina. No surprise, being the only furry family there, it took some getting used to for the conservative masses that called it home. Furries as a rule tend to lean more liberally, with some exceptions on most issues. Jane, the receptionist, agreed to him. "Oh, what a cutie. Is he in need of a doctor?" Joanne shook her head. "No, on the contrary, he wishes to volunteer here to get a feel for the life of a doctor." "Very well, just fill out the following forms and we'll have him cheering up patients in no time." After some tedious paperwork, Adam was led to the back room. "Bye, Adam. See you when you get home." Adam was walking by when he spotted me. I waved to him as the receptionist explained the situation and handed him over to me. "Ah, just in time. We have a few patients for you to visit. By the way, you look kind of familiar." "Oh, you might know my dad, David. He's a health physicist in the research section of this place. He says he sometimes comes around to help measure the radiation levels of patients here since some doctors are afraid of handling radioactive materials." "Ah, so you're his son. No wonder you looked so familiar. I know you'll grow up to do amazing things one day." Adam let out a cute meow and went to a few rooms. In one, he found a pretty girl recovering from surgery to fix a broken bone. He sat near her as she petted him. Just then, her older brother came by to check up on her. "Hey, cat, beat it." "Leave him alone, Leon. He's just a volunteer." "Stay out of this, Laura. His kind ain't nothing but trouble." Adam was frozen with fear. Leon closed in and threw a punch, but I quickly grabbed Adam out of the way. Leon hit the wall with his fist and became a temporary patient. Security took him to another room until then to ensure the safety of the volunteer cat boy. "Thank you for stepping in. I suppose I should tell you how I got here like this. As you might imagine, it is hard not to be the center of attention living in Covina as the only cat family on the block. My mom drove me here and encouraged me to volunteer since I'd expressed a childhood interest in being a doctor. I figured it beat the awkwardness of being petted by children when I just want to go to the library and read books. Books that are a bit more advanced than the feel-good ones usually recommended to kids my age. Though I did pick up a book about a teen who had run away from home and managed to carve out a home and rough it in the wilderness for years before his family joined him. I was reading it intently when suddenly I was surrounded by children who petted me and exclaimed about me being a kitty person. The parents, of course, apologized, and I told them I didn't know what to make of this, as I'd never been petted before, but was not particularly angry. I checked out the book and went home and heard about this position, so I thought, why not? If people are so intent on petting me, I may as well lend myself to people who need companionship. That makes sense. Boy, what a vivid story for one so young. You ever thought of writing a book about this? Maybe one day, but I'm doubtful anyone would want to read it. You never know, all sorts of people publish memoirs and autobiographies and find satisfaction in it even if they don't become world famous. Time will tell, but there are many more patients to cheer up, so I will get back to it. With that, things mainly returned to routine. I would change bedpans and give out plush toys to kid patients when I could. I noticed he carried around a distinct glow-in-the-dark teddy bear that he got from his grandmother. I did a bit of curious digging and found out where they were made, and added some to my collection of toys I give to patients and the deserving. My career changed when a man named Bill Benson approached me with a business card and told me I could work on something significant for the world and help change it in even greater ways than I could as a hospital nurse. I would have only likely gone into hospice care from there if I earned my stripes, so I put in my paperwork as one did when switching jobs and went along with it once I verified the job was legit. Wednesday, December 14th, 1994. I started my job as a forensic anthropologist after completing my intensive training. For a first case, they sure gave me a hard one. A preschool in Covina burned to the ground and nothing could be found, not even a bone. Depending on the traffic, Covina is between an hour and a half to 2 hours by car. That's when the beach backdrop turned to a fast food drive-thru called Dog Fart Burger for respecting intellectual property. Hello, welcome to Dog Fart Burger. Would you like to try our 2-patty barbecue Dog Fart Burger combo? Those words came out of the digital confessional box repurposed to serve the public some food on the fly. No thank you, I'll have the Atomic Chicken Fart Sandwich combination with Easter Island fries and a large meow beer to drink. Would you like to try a Gee Whiz cake with that? Sure, why not? I drove up to the window where a man who looked like he had too much caffeine stood ready to take my money and give me my food. Hello, that'll be $4, please. The cash exchange happened and I pulled into a parking spot. Inside was a mix of humans and furries chowing down at separate tables. Though they were in the same restaurant, one side seemed like furry creatures and the other humans. As for me, I sure would have found it convenient to have a pair of prehensile tails at a time like this. Then again, one shouldn't drink and drive, nor should one eat while on the road. I pondered this amid my decidedly questionable dietary choice. In my primitive compact car equipped with a middle finger escape rocket feature in case things get too hairy. Only privileged people can access these vehicles lest they fall into the wrong hands. A lunch that was as grubby inside as outside devoured, and tasted like spicy chicken and waffles. No doubt they had just finished serving breakfast and could not wash the taste of the battered breakfast out of the fry baskets. The road was to be my friend for the next couple of hours. Light traffic the whole way, the freeway never felt so free. It was short-lived, and the 1950s-looking town surrounded me like all good things in what felt like a blink. And come to find the vacant lot that was once the Covina preschool was there. Out of the car, the PI Patrick Patterson turned to me. This is a case for the ages, to put it lightly. Nothing but ashes. We collected some for analysis at the lab, but we thought you'd want to see it yourself. And what of the suspects and survivors? There's a 2-tailed catboy who remembers what went on that day despite allegedly leaving for the day. He said it was a dream or premonition. Surprised a kid knows his age but knows what that is. I'm surprised you found your way out of a box when you were a kid. Touché. With the witty banter out of the way, it was time to get to work. Every inch was searched for anything the PI may have missed. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Could there be more, or have my analytical skills been left to rust? That's it, rust. Plumbing is an essential requirement of any preschool. PI, have you any floor plans of this place or anything to suggest the layout it once had? Yes, we do. With the plans in hand, it appeared the bathroom was nowhere to be found, but definite signs of formerly intact water lines. Well, that rules out cherry bombs. Whatever did this must have had some high-level clearance to make this mess. Indeed, the detective had interrogated a Catboy, but he kept saying something was wrong with the ornaments he set up when the supervisor sent him home. And you all took it as a confession? Nah, no judge would ever believe you could have purposely tampered with anything and left so little evidence. Whoever it is, they probably know what gives it away and have studied crime fiction passionately. That or someone on the inside, but who do we know that would hate children this much? Beats me, but supposing it was structural failure, it could be a class action negligence suit. The floor plans look like they were built for housing before earthquake standards. I dusted for prints, hoping to find anything to close this case. I didn't find anything at first, but then I tripped over a skull as I turned around to consider alternate tactics. Are you okay, Lila? Yes, I'm fine, Patrick. Whoa, how did we not discover this before? Don't know, but it sure seems odd because I swear we checked all over and found nothing until now. For all we know, the preschool could have been built on an ancient burial site. Regardless, I will want to take these remnants back to the lab to make sure. After digging up more fossils than a museum could ever hold and other evidence life was once there, it was back to the lab for me. If there was one, our perp was either a criminal mastermind who had buried these decoys to hide his crime, or careless, thinking we would never find out. After running the analytics, we identified the bodies of several parents and children. From the looks of things, they had the whole house, a whole house for the event. It was not a surprise when it was free entry as a thank you for enrolling the children. Lily Lockup's daughter Lauren Lockup and her husband Loman Lockup were among the victims. Nothing conclusively linked Adam to the tragedy for as many bodies as we had identified. In the end, it seemed like the cause of the building burning and collapsing was nothing more than a combination of faulty electrical wiring and unstable ornaments that ignored fire codes put in place to protect people. Naturally, since the two-tailed catboy had presumably seen the event happen before it did, many seemed to shun him by association. Not long after the report, the defunct Hammer and Tail Construction Company members and even the former mayor of Covina, Monty Moneybags, were tried for criminal negligence in the preschool buildings. The plans had suggested that whatever caused the preschool's destruction was at least partially the fault of it not being up to building standard from the beginning. It took a while to get a case going, both for finding an impartial jury and a defense and prosecuting attorney who didn't not lose loved ones in the tragedy. At the same time, a case was being built with the evidence I'd found. Legal experts know this is the discovery portion. I opted to stay in Covina for a while at the Holiday Inn. It was the one by the West Covina Freeway. Call it a sixth sense, but somehow I knew trouble was brewing and tomorrow was my last day off. According to the news reports, the incident with the preschool could not have come at a worse time, as Mr. Moneybags had lost the governor's election that year and was planning a campaign for the next one. I turned on the TV to channel 12 for generic news, and this was what I saw. Good evening, everyone. My name is George Generic of Generic News. For tonight's top story, Mayor Moneybags, an unsuccessful contender in the last California gubernatorial race, is facing immense controversy. It involves a pending class action lawsuit and criminal negligence suit over a poorly made structure he commissioned while mayor of Covina. Meanwhile, Senator Silverstein took office earlier this month after he created a winning campaign against former Mayor Moneybags on kissing adorable San Joaquin kit foxes. In other news, despite the cause of the destruction of the preschool building being attributed to it not being up to safety codes in multiple categories, residents of Covina are not convinced. We now go live to GN reporter Terry Tellme. Thank you, George. I'm here at the house of the two-tailed catboy named Adam. As you can see, swastikas are mowed into his family's lawn, and someone has spray-painted the words, "A predator lives here, protect your children," on his garage door. Behind me are some protesters as well. Let's go talk to one of them. Yeah, the name is Gil Goway, and I've lived in this fine town for far too long to think something wasn't up. Why might that be? Think about it, he's a cat, and they're a predatory species. On top of that, the team they sent to investigate was a group consisting of at least half furries of a known pro-furry organization hired by the police force. You don't see where there might be a conflict of interest? No more than having a jury of your peers determine guilt. Well, he should make it like my last name and go away! And now we turn to the catboy. Just then Adam came out to talk and was seen being pelted with eggs and rotten banana peels. Adam shook it off. Besides the vandalism and being pelted with trash, I cannot even get an ice cream without people whispering things about me. Refused service at eateries, and even threats from parents, not the least of which is Lily Lockup. Thankfully, the legal system knew better than to let her play any part in the upcoming court cases. I fear what might transpire if others like me are mistreated this way. And there you have it. What a brave boy to endure this. With that, TV time was over. How awful that anyone, least of all a child, be subjected to such harassment. There's got to be something we can do until this all blows over. There was a knock on my hotel door. How strange. Why would anyone be coming to call at this hour? My thoughts were promptly answered when I looked through the peephole to see what else but the cat boy who was attacked today. Sorry to disturb you, but the police are searching my house for clues. Because I had an idea what became of the preschool and public pressure, they need to check again. But they already ruled out that it couldn't be you. That or they're searching for clues to the vandals who made a mess of my home. The public did not trust your team's work on this case. I could end up on trial soon if they find anything suspicious, and I'm scared. I'm sorry you had to see this side of the world so soon. I'd hoped you'd at least be in high school before you saw this kind of prejudice. If it's any relief, I'm sure they're probably looking into the vandalism and whether or not someone could have faked evidence pointing in your direction. If it is that, they could use the evidence to find the vandal and make them pay to get your property fixed. I don't think it would make that big of a difference. I'm tired of living in a place where I'm unwanted. If they push me too far, I might lose control of myself and become the monster they fear I am. You're not a monster. It is they that are the real monsters. I wish it were that simple. This is no good. I cannot, as a professional given to emotions or compassion. Though he may be cute, I have to remember anyone can be a criminal in this place. But how in the world could he possibly be behind something like this? And how could people give in to such heresy, even though any educated person would see the folly in assuming he could do this without help? Before I could think another thought, the scared catboy hugged my legs and purred. Well, there goes any lack of bias I might have had for him. Regardless, I'm sure I could testify appropriately about who did this. Well, where are your parents, little one? They're staying at Pie Tights next door, near the freeway leading out of town. Pie Tights? Adam pulls out a picture of a sign that looks like a royal crown with the words "Excellent" and "Cowboy Movie" on it. Oh, that place. Yeah. Curious, why do you call it that? Not entirely sure, but my mom says I've been calling it that since I was 2 or 3 years old. I also mistook the crypt keeper as a monkey for the way he laughed when I was about that age too. Well, if you look at it that way, it does look like a meringue pie, and I imagine we have earthquakes here, so they had to screw it in tight. And the crypt keeper, well yeah, he does have a pretty weird, inhuman laugh. Makes as much sense as anything else. It's cute. Don't ever forsake your childhood, no matter what may befall you. Moreover, how did you find me here? There aren't very many of us living in this town, so all I had to do was wander the area until I picked up a scent that wasn't human and followed it here. Your parents must be worried if they're in that hotel room. I would return if I was you. Alright. With that, the tragic catboy let me be. I'd probably take him in as my own if he were an orphan. Then again, my line of work would be too dangerous to have a child. Though I'm not a police officer, I'd be a fool to think a place this hostile to him on a mere suspicion of his involvement wouldn't have it out for me too, due to my work in it. Once I was alone, I deadbolted my motel door and went to sleep for the night. In the morning, I would explore the place further. The following day came in after I completed my morning routine and stepped outside. I found everything was mainly calm, contrary to what I'd seen on TV the day prior, but I knew better than to let my guard down. Call it personal interest, but I had to know if the investigators found anything at the catboy's house. When I arrived, I found a team sent to investigate was just about to give up and was tearing down the police tape. Wait! What? Who are you? I'm Lila Uracha. I'm a new forensic anthropologist. Well, no one got killed here, so I don't think we need you on this part of the case. We didn't find a motive for the catboy in your case either. I wasn't suggesting that, but of the people who lost loved ones, did any of them set off red flags that would suggest they'd have done this to spite him? Not really. If anything, it looks like the sort of thing some high school delinquents would do, even if you weren't a crime suspect. I see. Thank you for your time. I wandered away from the scene. I don't know what I expected to learn from this crime scene that wasn't on the news, but something told me there was something much bigger than it seemed, and I couldn't place it. Either way, when they finally got the hearing, I was sure I'd be called as an expert witness to give my side of things, so I had to make sure my theory was straight. Finding nothing else of interest, I checked out of the hotel at around the same time as Adam and his family. We waved goodbye to each other while his parents seemed confused about how he might know me. I headed back on the road to Torrance. Once home, it would be business as usual until the court dates on January 7th, 1995, the mail came. I was to appear in West Covina Courthouse on February 1st, 1995, and to bring documents about my findings and expert opinion based on all I could uncover. For those who do not know, such a subpoena requires 25 days advance notice if served by mail. Based on the date stamp when I opened it, it had been mailed on January 4th, 1995. More than enough time for such an in-state sending to arrive within the required time. Adam had also received one as well. The civil class action suit would happen on March 1st, 1995. Still, I would not need to be there in civil cases, despite the criminal ones being related. Civil cases do not use character witnesses and can use evidence such as floor plans I found a while back and reasonable persons clause to determine damages to all parties involved. Since the cases applied to both Monty Moneybags and members of the defunct Hammer and Tail Construction Company on the same facts, it was determined more efficient by the appropriate judges that both criminal and civil cases were joint ones. Inside the courtroom, Judge Accurate took his seat. Alright, we'll now hear the case of Hammer and Tails Construction Company and Monty Moneybags versus Covina. Both parties were sworn in and the judge would hear the opening statements, starting with the prosecuting attorney Sarah Stackade. Your Honor, the recent tragedy at what was supposed to be a festive occasion is nothing short of appalling. The evidence we have to present will show that these horrible people are guilty of criminal negligence, involuntary manslaughter, and third-degree murder. Defense attorney Simon Southsea said, and I intend to show that evidence is insufficient to declare them guilty of anything short of maybe civil penalties, if that. Judge Accurate nodded and let them proceed. Exhibit A is the DNA sample from the bones found at the site of the tragedy. Exhibit B is the floor plans for the construction that both Moneybags and the multiple members of the Hammer and Tails Construction Company signed. Lastly, Exhibit C is the written statement from the expert in the field who I've brought into court to answer questions about the situation. And I have a witness that was there the day the incident happened. He was setting up for a play that went afoul, and his story indicates something was wrong with the play setup and not the building itself. Judge Accurate first examined the physical evidence brought to him in discovery and spoke. So according to what I see here, the photos accompanying the DNA samples were people on the collapse site. The floor plans and statements suggest that corners were cut in securing the building for earthquake resistance. Moreover, highly flammable materials were inside the building, beyond what is typical for a place of early childhood education. Yes, the plans are substandard switchboards and timber wood, which would require maintenance to prevent rotting. Were a switchboard to be faulty, it poses an electrical fire which could burn the timber wood and result in a building collapse. Your Honor, even if we accept that the building wasn't made with the best of materials, because let's face it, cities aren't corporations and have too many priorities to account for everything, it still doesn't explain the circumstances surrounding the collapse itself. I'd like to call Adam Apfelbaum to the stand to explain how he remembers it happening. Adam nervously took the stand and the judge turned to him. Mr. Apfelbaum, please explain what you remember of the day you helped set up the play. Yes, Your Honor, it was a day like any other, except we were just preparing to put together a show for the parents. As we were setting up, I noticed a concert of lights were shaking a bit. Despite the fact the person ensuring I did the job safely saw it as nothing to worry about. Moreover, they had me set up an angel that would fly as we sang Silent Night around the room. The show was supposed to be a musical, complete with the nativity scene. I was just to be a stagehand because I didn't want to be a part of the show, but participation in some features was mandatory for all children. I expressed my concerns that maybe having a flying angel bust be carried across the room on wires when we could barely get the lighting to stay put was not a good idea, but they didn't listen. While I admit I wasn't there to see exactly how it went down, I suspected something was up between the barely hanging lights, ambitious moving props, and the cracks in the ceiling as I attempted to hang the rope that would carry it across. Defense attorney Simon Southsea looked proud as he prepared to give his interpretation of those facts. So these were maintenance and show-related problems, not that of a faulty building. I mean, they had freaking kids setting up props, and they didn't think maybe they should reinforce that stuff? Objection! The age of the volunteers setting up directions is irrelevant here. They were supervised by people who should have safety standards. As we cannot interview the dead, we cannot know if the people using the building knew of its defects, which is a crucial component of this negligence case. If there is nothing further, I call my expert to the stand, Lila Iracha. I took the stand calmly. It would seem some of the things I wrote in my report, among other bits of evidence, might not have been as clear as I'd hoped. The bones we found at the site from which we took the DNA were not initially discovered until I arrived. Based on what Adam said on the stand and the relevant spec documentation from our report, it sounds like the adults thought it was okay that things were moving a little as they put it up. Thus, it was likely a known defect of the building itself. While this may be normal with hanging ornaments, light fixtures moving should have been a major red flag. There were also cracks in the ceiling, which is usually one of the telltale signs that something is wrong with the building on an inspection report. That would be consistent with the lack of reinforcement for earthquakes and possible rot suggested earlier. A responsible construction company would have warned the person who asked the building to be built about it and build it accordingly so the rot wouldn't happen, and it would be the burden of the current owners to keep it maintained. At no point in the public records of the defunct company in question was there ever a bill for such a thing. Not on this building or the others they'd worked on. Based on the billing statements, they used cheap materials that were barely pliable and should have been disposed of. They didn't, and how they managed to keep it standing this long is miraculous. Based on what was found in the history of the building on the public records, it would seem that even if they didn't hang the decor from the ceiling as described, the building would have collapsed under itself sooner or later. Given there wasn't much left of the rubble, it was likely an electrical fire. Judge Accurate turned to the defense attorney. So from what I gather, there were defects in the building demonstrated through evidence record and examination of what was left of the preschool. Therefore, the Hammer and Tails construction company knowingly used parts that were not up to standard and would eventually collapse regardless of provocation by whoever used them. Your Honor, I save it. No matter who was unjust to who, both of your defendants knew what they were getting into. And because all parties were too cheap to get a proper construction, hundreds of people died almost 2 months ago. Were this a situation involving weapons that you used to harm intentionally, this would be an apparent first-degree murder. At best, it's a third-degree murder, criminal negligence, and manslaughter. As the event did not count ticket sales, my best judgment metric is the number of enrolled people who could not be found. The enrollment led to conservatively 100 counts of manslaughter, 100 counts of third-degree murder, and a count of criminal negligence for each of your parts in what ensued. The mayor at the time was paying these people to do what they did, and despite a city inspector warning them about the building, they approved it anyway. Therefore, they are just as guilty as those who left it this way. The ones who left it this way could have made the necessary adjustments and billed them anyway and sued in civil court for what needed to be done, but they did not, as their business history shows. As the jury reached a verdict, the jury responded, "Guilty as charged." Judge Accurate said, "I sentence all defendants to no less than 25 years in jail. We're adjourned. Now take the scum away." Everyone went home after that except the one sentenced to jail time. And that was Chapter 1 of Dissonance, the Furry Files. Boy, did that ever get off to quite a bang of a start. And that was just 16 pages, and as you can see from the running time of this, that took 28 minutes to read out loud. So if that's the first chapter, and we've got 12 that are approximately this length or longer, 11, because it's a 12 chapter to go, then yeah, this is definitely a $30 book right here, at least, if not worth possibly more than that. But I want to be reasonable and keep with what's, what the market says is fair. So if you want to get this particular book for yourself, I've enclosed the exact product in the description of the video below. Thank you for watching, and this has been The Forsaken Scribe, the Abandoned Reimagined. Thank you. Bye.